Hi, I'm Swarnim, and I want to start by diving into the background of what app I wanted to make and why it mattered to me so much. The app I wanted to make is basically a simple weight tracker, but why would I make another weight tracker when there's like a million apps out there? Obviously, there's more to it than that. And to really help you understand what it is that separates this idea and why I felt the need to go out and build it myself, I want to take you on a little journey. This is what I looked like when I was 14, believe it or not. I genuinely look older than I do now. But that was the last time that I was at what people would consider a healthy weight. Throughout college, I started gaining and continuing to gain weight until I weighed 200 pounds and looked like this. This is a photo of me from just over a year ago. And you can see here what I look like now, and it's a massive difference. And why that happened is because a year or so ago, I left my job and I started focusing on myself. I started reading tons of self-help books like Mindset and Atomic Habits and all the classics. I started eating healthier. I started going to the gym and working out. I started to focus on my sleep more and also started playing sports. And all of this obviously made my lifestyle a lot healthier, which over the course of a year led to this transformation that you see over here. But for the last 6 months or so, I've stayed pretty much the same. And I still have like a good 30 pounds of extra fat on me, which I haven't been able to budge in the last 6 months. And that's despite all of my healthy habits. And to give you some more context of just how difficult budging this weight has been, here's what I've been up to in March. I learned Japanese singing. I worked out 4 to 5 times a week, and I learned how to make YouTube, publishing 30 shorts in 30 days, learning everything from scripting, recording, acting, speaking, learning to edit videos, from color grading to sound engineering. And all of that I achieved in 1 month. I can now speak almost conversational Japanese. I can now sing at the right pitch. But the only goal that I failed completely at was losing weight. I stayed literally the exact same weight throughout the entire month, despite, as I said, working out 4 to 5 times a week and significantly increasing my strength. So I was feeling really stuck, and I decided to do a deep dive and figure out what was really holding me back. Every single one of these other goals I succeeded at because I set up a system that worked and followed it. But tracking weight is easy. You just measure your weight every day and you see if it goes down. But somehow that's not a good enough system. And in my deep dive on solving this problem, here's what I realized. When I was trying to lose 1 pound of weight a week, it was too little weight compared to the daily fluctuations that happen. And it was really hard to see my progress. But even 2 pounds a week, which is the upper limit for sustainable weight loss, was still not enough to solve this issue. Let's say my weight was like 176 pounds one day, and my goal was to get to 174. My fluctuations would be 176, 175, goes back to 176, drops to 174, and then by the time it's like time to weigh in, it will suddenly jump back to like 176. And it's really hard to make sense of this pattern and deal with all of the variation. And this was despite me trying to be really consistent with my weight measurement. I would weigh myself at the exact same time every day after freshening up. I would wear the same clothes every single time and so on. And it still fluctuated too much to meaningfully tell if I was making any progress. So then I tried using the Fitbit weight tracker, which had a graph, which I thought would be useful because I can see my trend over time. And while that does help me analyze the behavior of my weight in the past, it doesn't really give me any intuition for what I should be doing today. And once again, it failed to give me the feedback that I needed day to day on losing my weight. And this was the big eureka moment for me when I actually figured this out and basically solved weight loss as far as I'm concerned. This is what I did. I went to ChatGPT and I asked it to give me like the next 90 days starting in March 23rd at a rate of 2 pounds per week. My starting weight was like 173, and then it would be 172.7 the next day, 172.4, and just reduced by 0.3 pounds on average, like every day. Then I copy pasted all of these into Obsidian, and I started tracking my weight using this document. And you can see my actual weights up here in bold and the projected weights in white down here. And here's where the magic happened. Every day when I go to put in my weight, I now have a reference point for what my weight is supposed to be. For example, my reference point tomorrow is 162.4. So if I'm putting in a weight of 164 pounds, that shows me that it's significantly above that and might not be just variation, which tells me that today I need to increase my caloric deficit until my trend starts to align closer to these. And now that you have a reference point, all of the variation in your weight suddenly has context, and you can use your intuition to understand whether you were dehydrated and do other things. And this has been magical for me. This small change made me go from 175 pounds, which once again I was stuck at for more than 6 months despite a healthy lifestyle, all the way down to 165 pounds yesterday. That's 10 pounds that I finally lost in 1 month after months of not losing weight. And the other awesome part of the system is that it makes your changes atomic. As long as I do my deficit today and I'm hitting the target for my weight tomorrow, or I'm in the ballpark for it and I stay in the ballpark for the target weight every day, I am guaranteed to hit my goal weight on my goal date. And that's it. I solved weight loss, basically. As far as I'm concerned, clearly it's working. And objectively, I think it's going to keep working. And all of this is even without measuring calories. Though I did use MyFitnessPal to track my calories every now and then, and I do have a good idea of what calories I'm intaking and how many I should be intaking. But having this system makes me not have to track my calories exactly every single day, which significantly reduces the burden of everything that's already associated with weight loss. With this, I can basically just rely on my intuition and adjust my portions. And it actually works because it fixes the feedback system. But as you can see, it's really clunky to use it like this in Obsidian, right? You need to go to ChatGPT, get it to format this list nicely, or do it manually, which is like a lot of effort. I'm sure some people could do this in Excel pretty quickly, but generally adjusting this was a pain. But what I realized is this was probably one of the easiest useful app ideas. Because the system is so easy but so specific, I realized that making an app was the perfect next step for this. It would also be the simplest app that I could actually make as a beginner that has meaningful value. But I'm gonna move on to the app idea, which is where everything started going downhill. As you can see, I started off great. I had an awesome design doc set up for it, some general idea of what I wanted the UI to look like, and a couple notes up here. I thought this was enough of a design doc before I should just dive in and actually get started making it, because I realized that I had no idea what any of this was actually going to look like until I build the prototypes, which I also learned from Theo is what you actually should do instead of wasting your time at doing a design doc. Build a prototype first, then if you need it, build a design doc. And since I had no experience with front end whatsoever, I decided to watch a bunch of Figma tutorials and front end videos, and I read this entire book on making good front end. It was an awesome book. And after spending hours researching and reading this entire book, I was feeling ready. I knew how to make an app look beautiful. Even though I'm a backend engineer, my confidence for front end was at an all-time high. And after 6 hours of messing around in Figma, this is what I threw together. As you can see, it's trash. And at this point, I was ready to give up. Clearly, front end was not for me, and I started playing Metro, which honestly, really good game, even after 10 years, and my first time diving into the Metro series. Let me know if you want me to stream that or something, but I had a blast playing it. It was so much fun. And I forgot all about my app. Until a few days later, I decided to go back into Figma and try a few other attempts. And I came up with something that looked slightly better this time. And at this point, I had spent as much time in Figma as I could possibly tolerate and decided to move on to actually trying to throw a MVP together. But before I did that, I had to figure out what language is front-end written and what does the framework look like, since I had never done front-end coding before. I decided to watch a bunch of YouTube videos comparing different front-end frameworks from Kotlin, React, Swift, Flutter, etc., etc. And they all told me to use Flutter. But I wanted to make sure that I had absolutely the best choice before I went into this. I asked multiple different LLMs just to be extra sure that I was picking the right option before I actually start coding. And if your goal is purely maximum speed to build simple apps with minimal coding, Flutterflow is a fantastic option and likely faster than writing code directly in Kotlin or even pure Flutter and Dart. It's specifically designed for rapid visual development. Not only did they tell me to use Flutter, they told me to use Flutterflow. Sorry, my camera overheated because it's fucking 40 degrees in India and I had to hold it in front of the AC for a little while. So I started coding in Flutterflow. And after 2 hours of effort, this is what I threw together. I could not even figure out basic parameters and just getting basic logic working and decided to throw this in the garbage. I am never touching this tool again. If you guys are planning to use this, I promise just learning and writing code is 10 times easier than this, no matter how easy anyone tells you this is. Also, at this point, I went back to Figma after like a week or so, and all of the front end concepts seem to have just sunk deeper into my brain because this attempt was much better. Like now you can see like my font choices, I made a logo, and it just looks way cleaner than before. And I was really happy. I felt like I had made progress learning visual design. I sent a screenshot of this to ChatGPT and I said, how do I get started building an app with Flutter? And it worked shockingly well. So then the next step was wipe coding. And white code I did, because look at this chat. This might be the longest chat I've ever had with GPT, and I was just vibing. And I was just using 4.0, not even 4.1. And it was actually working surprisingly well. I thought Flutter would not have really good code gen, but it was one-shotting every single feature I asked it for and actually got a proper app decked with features working. And I was really happy. Most of the code was one shot with like few simple errors that I could fix, even though I had never coded in Dart before. And in just 1 hour, I had like a working prototype. And by 4 a.m., like 8 hours into my coding session, I had a fully working app. As you can see here, like I could enter my name, my start weight, my goal weight, adjust this. It would show me a predicted my weight today. It shows me my target, gives me a little you're on track button, shows me like tips for the app and the settings page. Like I added working import function, export functions. I added working notification reminders you could set. I have like a weekly graph here you can see, etc. And obviously there's no data right now, but you could update your goals. I had weight logs so you could manually see every single weight you had entered, etc. And all of these pages were not that much code. It wasn't terrible code. I do think it was a little bit redundant. I think this could be like half as much code to build this, but it's still not that much code. I was really happy. I was so happy with how this app looked and performed. And this actually is kind of pretty much what I want the app to be like. The only issue is that it's written in Flutter. You might be thinking, but it looks good. What's the big deal? If it works, right? Just ship it. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because Theo already has, and he's made some incredible videos, which I just recommend you look up Theo Flutter and watch the first one that comes up. I'll paraphrase his video probably poorly, and this is the gist. Flutter is basically a game engine. Making your app in Flutter is very similar to making it in Unity. Now, you know how, if you've heard of game engines, that's what you make mobile games in and like other stuff. And in theory, you could make a game which had icons and buttons that looked exactly like an app. The only difference is that it would be a game. And you know that because a game renders everything, it makes the performance horrible. Also, because it didn't actually use any native components, if you were on Android or iOS, all of the UI would just look a little bit off. The buttons wouldn't look right, the text wouldn't look right, everything would just be slightly off and be in this uncanny valley, which makes the UI actually look bad. And that's basically the gist of it, is that it's the game engine and doesn't have any native support at all, which makes it terrible. The obvious right answer is React Native, which after watching a ton of Theo videos, I have realized the extent to which React Native is an incredible answer. I do actually deeply understand the stance that he's taking and do independently agree with that stance. I just don't want to reiterate all of it here because it's a lot. I watched like probably 5 to 10 hours of his videos to gain the level of context that I have now. And anyway, so I'm going to start over before it's too late and start learning React Native, which is a much better framework, much more generalizable and more usable long term. And that's a much better investment to make in today's day and time, both long term and to get my first project up and running as quickly as I can. And that's what I'm going to start doing. And I'll record more of these videos going over my experience learning React Native for the first time, contrasted with how my Flutter experience was. And I'm sure I'm going to have issues in React too. Nothing's perfect. I'm really excited to learn and use React Native now after knowing everything that I do. And I hope you're excited to see those videos too, because I'll make that next. But in the meantime, you should like and subscribe, because I have 60 subscribers and every single one actually counts. Every time you subscribe, you can see my subscriber count change, which you can't say for most YouTubers. Every time you like this video, it actually shows it to like 10 times more people. And it really helps me out. And I'm so excited that I finally decided to start my YouTube journey and make this first real long form video. That's all for today. This is like my 4th time trying to make this video. I already recorded this for like an hour a couple days ago, and OBS died, and then today my camera died, and just I hope this take actually works and my mic's not like messed up or some weird thing. Once I have my next video up, I'll have it show up on the screen right here. Just click that and watch me actually build this app in React.